All right, welcome to EFT Expert Interviews, where we talk to renowned EFT practitioners on topics that can transform your life. These are live interviews where you get to ask questions and get answers from the speaker. I'm your host, Stefan Gonig from EFTalive.com and single2soulmate.me. And today we are talking to Betsy Muller on the topic of the power of EFT for boosting creativity and connection, which is a really fascinating topic. Betsy Muller, MBA, is a EFT master trainer and certified advanced EFT practitioner, speaker, and best-selling author with over 2 decades of experience leading live networking events, online tapping groups, and the Artist Way with EFT creativity coaching circles. With a passion for helping others heal through creative connection, Ms. Muller is an interfaith minister, retreat leader, certified soul detective, and therapy dog volunteer working in memory care settings. So welcome, Betsy. It is wonderful to have you.
Thanks so much, Stefan. It's great to be here on a Saturday with you.
Yes, thank you. So this is the first of these EFT Expert live interviews, and I am really excited to get into it. These are going to be happening, just for people who are new to this, 2 Saturdays every month for the next couple of years. And 2025 is already fully booked, and I'm already a third into 2026, and I've got a lot of other people say, yes, I'm still scheduling. So just stay tuned, and there'll be lots of fascinating interviews. So why don't you start with an opening question for you, Betsy? How did you first become aware of the power of EFT, of the power that EFT offered for releasing creative blocks?
Okay, that can go all different directions. I will say the first time I tried EFT, I was a jet-lagged mother in Europe, and I was just open and minded enough to go to a seminar, and they suggested I try this tapping thing, and I tried it, and I felt so good. I'm like, what is that about? And well, fast forward a few years later, I decided to change careers completely and do EFT as a business to become a certified coach and to do group programs and share my passion for EFT with people that never heard of it before. And starting a business, as you know, because I know you're in a business too, Stefan, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that you're afraid of. Like, how am I going to make money? And I need to speak and I need to market. And who will pay me for this? And what if I fail? And what will people say about me doing this weird stuff? And so I would just say there were fears. There are fears that come up all over the place, right? About things that you haven't done before or things you wanted to and you're scared of. So that was really my first entry into EFT. And I have to say, some of my earliest successes had to do with speaking, being in front of an audience and having confidence. And EFT worked really well for that because I used a lot of speaking to just get my business off the ground, doing live events. And, so that's a bit of my story. But even now, so the next thing that EFT really helped me with that got me doing one of my first big groups was I wanted to write a book. And I hate books. I hate writing. Okay. I should say I was a chemistry major in college. A lot of my jobs before getting into EFT were very technical left brain kind of jobs. And the thought of writing just was like, I might have to, just lock myself in a room with gallons of coffee and hope for the best. And then those thoughts like nobody will read it. And then people will hate me for what I think. I don't know. You just have all these things come up into your head. They're ridiculous things. So I started an Artist Way with EFT group to help me get confident about writing because I'd heard about writers who had used this book called The Artist Way. And I thought, oh, maybe there's something there for me. So that's what got me started. And maybe I'll tell you more about The Artist Way as we keep going with this because The Artist Way is not for sissies. It stirs up all sorts of unpleasant memories and stories from your past. And as we know in the world of EFT, we're often helping people clear unpleasant memories from the past with this gentle, wonderful acupressure technique that changes our brains. Okay.
We
Is
have
that,
a we have
is that
a
what you were
comment,
hoping for? Yeah. I see there we've got some friends coming on. That's good to see.
and it says, "All the same questions when you're wanting to make art your career too."
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're relating to what you're saying in their field.
Well, and you're a relationship coach. I mean, think about relationships too. There's all these thoughts that come into our head like, what if I'm rejected? And am I good enough? And will it be worth it? And why bother? And yeah, in order to move forward successfully, you have to put that stuff behind you in a positive way, right?
Yes. Well, you mentioned creativity and connection.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to hear how those two go together.
So, connection, I mean, if you think about it, your business will go nowhere if you don't nurture a network of support. Let's just call it that. So, friends you've had from high school could become part of your business someday. Friends from past jobs, the marketing activities. Who do you reach out to? Who's in the community? Who needs what you have? Who's going to read your book? All those things, maintaining a positive relationship with the world around you is so important for your health. For we are wired to be connected to the world around us, right? And so I think I learned that lesson really early on. I value friendships. I work on relationships. I'd always been pretty good at online marketing, even in my previous jobs. I'm good at researching. So the connection part wasn't as hard for me. I think I've had success in the area of connection too. But then you got to think about connection in a bigger way. I think as I've grown and used EFT more, I've realized there's this spiritual connection that is also very, very much a part of our success and our ability to walk in this world and create. Okay. And so this has to do with the invisible. and sometimes people have a harder time with that, but what is it that's part of why you're on this planet supporting your work and your purpose? So we might call it spirituality, we might call it God, we might call it universe, nature, the oneness. I happen to have a pretty strong faith, and I've had to walk it. Starting a business, getting my husband through a pretty upsetting chapter in both of our lives when he had a brain injury after cardiac arrest. And that was a big lesson time for me about using this connection. And that means praying. And actually, in my case, it involved me connecting with God daily to yell at God, to to swear at God, to tap while I did it, and then kind of settle into like, okay, God, you got this. I'll give this over to you because it's too big for me to handle. Help me. And also asking other people. So this thing about connection and community, I had a pretty big community when that happened to us. This was 8 years ago. And I reached out on social media to everybody I knew and I said, hey, we need some prayers. And I actually started writing about what was going on every single day to tell my network what we were going through and what we needed. And we had thousands of people from all around the world who cared about my husband, who cared about me, who knew our children maybe. It became a village, and that really carried me through so many of the very hard days that came after that initial shocking event. So when I talk about connection, that's all of the stuff I'm talking about. And if you want to create, there's something that wants to work through us. I think we were plunked down at this space and time for a reason. And a part of our job is to figure out, why am I here? And what am I supposed to do? And how can I personally, with everything that I have and am, make a difference? And the tapping, the EFT can help you connect to that. to release the fears and just open up and say, okay, who am I and what am I here to do? And let it move through me. Let that burst of energy take charge and lead me in the right direction. And so sometimes we have a sense of what we're here to do. Sometimes we don't have a clue, or we kind of start going down a path and then we get lost. I like to encourage all of my clients and friends to pause and ask for something to flow through them. And it requires a little work on your part. You're a partner in this process. So you have to be in a good state of mind to receive it. It's like you're an antenna. That's what I always say. We're an antenna and also a broadcast tower. We are both that. And you got to turn your antenna on, and you have to have your antenna powered up, which means you eat right, you sleep right, you take care of your emotional health, and you make space in your life so that you can receive, and then also to broadcast too. So everything we're doing as individuals on this planet is either receiving or broadcasting, right? And sometimes it's simultaneous, like right now. That's what we're doing.
Great.
Okay, long answer. Was that what you were looking for, Stefan?
Well, when I was in a therapy group a million years ago, and one of the members of the group was a man who was an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and he had this large room in his house devoted as his art studio, and he had his art. He was a painter, and he had his
Mm-hmm.
art on every wall in this room. It was a big, very big room. So it was just
Yeah.
like all these paintings all over the place. But he didn't have any art shows. He was
Mm-hmm.
scared to do it. So he wasn't struggling with the creative side because he had lots of paintings
Mm-hmm.
on his walls.
Yeah.
Um, but it was scary for him to do that, to have a show where people would
Mm-hmm.
actually see it. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that he said that really struck me, and I'd be interested in hearing how you would use EFT to address this. So I've kind of used this as the connection side of the art and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The broadcasting.
broadcast. Exactly.
Yeah.
For him, it felt extremely vulnerable to show his art to the world because every piece of art was an authentic, deep, pure piece of him. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like, oh, here's this cool, I don't know, just something that's not so personal. That
Yeah.
every art piece felt intensely personal,
Yeah.
and he felt very vulnerable and scared to be
Yeah.
judged or something.
So I remember many moments feeling exactly like that because it feels safer to just keep it with you. And using EFT, I mean, the statement, even though I'm terrified to release this to the world because I might be rejected, I accept myself anyway. I accept this fear, and I'm open to releasing this for the highest good. Or even though I could be crushed by criticism if I let this out. And a part of me is not ready to do that. I accept myself fully and completely. And I'm looking for a way to do this with safety and greater confidence. So those are some statements I would use, and then I would tap, on all the negative. And sometimes, one of the tools for creativity that's been so important to me, and I would recommend to anybody here, is get a journal and write down all those filthy thoughts that you have. A little list, whatever's going on with you, because those are exactly what you can use as aspects to tap on these points. Say your fears out loud, say what you're upset about, and just allow your body to balance and settle, and your brain to calm down while you're having these upsetting thoughts. And what our science behind EFT shows is that we really do calm the body and the brain in the midst of having upsetting and unpleasant thoughts, to the point that we can even be present to those nasty thoughts and feelings, and start using our highest prefrontal cortex brain to say, hey, that's ridiculous. What would be safe? What could I try doing today that would be safe? Or how can I protect myself and still do something? So maybe it's a small show. Maybe it's so one of the things as an author, I was worried about my first book and that people would find out what I really believe and say I was going to hell or hate me. So I got a small group of people. I think I got 8 or 10 early readers. And I said, "Hey, would you be willing to read the book? And then I'll do some gatherings with these early readers. We'll even do some tapping together. I'll give back something to you guys, and I'd love your input." And that was helpful. They found some typos. They had suggestions, and so somebody with an art show might invite a small group of people to his studio if he's not ready to go out, right? So you find a way to start having some early wins and also get some good feedback. Sometimes that feedback does help align you to what the market or the audience is ready for and what they'll be kind to you about. But being vulnerable, that's a gift. Being vulnerable with an audience will bring your audience closer. That has been my experience. We don't have to be perfect to be loved and respected. In fact, we already deserve that as human beings. So we got to let go of all that. People are nicer than we give them credit for. Even if they don't like our work, they will be pretty polite, I think. What do you think?
Well, we have another comment.
Okay.
And he wrote, I can sure relate to that. I only show my painting to a very few people.
Yeah. So, Chris, that's how it starts. Show your paintings to some people that you trust, that you feel safer with. I remember back when I was first doing these Artist Way groups, there was a lady named Hazel in my groups, and we would do these on phone calls. Back that was before we had Zoom, and she was a painter, and she did eventually share some paintings with us, but she was just retiring, and she dismissed her artwork. And you know what, I was on Facebook the other day, and Hazel and I have been friends on Facebook for a while, and I looked, and she did this glorious painting of a place she was at in Maine, I think. And I was just in awe. It took my breath away, Chris. I want you to know this. This woman, somewhere along the line between, this must have been 10 years ago when we were doing Artist Way together. Somewhere along the line, she got a backbone. She got some muscles about being able to share her work with the world. I suspect she's had some shows and probably sold some paintings too. So don't let that stop you. And I hope you love painting enough to make that fun for you as a way to relax and feel better about the world too.
Yeah, I would think that this is very true for any creative endeavor. And we've been talking about art because I guess
Mm-hmm.
in some ways it seems a little easier to see the truth of it in art because if
Yeah,
I put something on, if I'm painting, it's coming from my soul, right?
right.
But it's also true, and you were talking about writing a book, and I think it's not too hard to see it there too. But I think any endeavor where you're creating something new, it's coming from your passion.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna feel that feeling of vulnerability, I think, is gonna be pretty universal.
Yeah, yeah. Whether you're speaking, if you're a performer, an actor, comedy. I've worked with many comedians over the years, and that's a hard job to get up on a stage with a bunch of strangers and hopefully make them laugh. And even the very best comedians make mistakes, and they try to get stage time so they can see what works and what doesn't, and they're really up there to take out what bombs and to keep in what doesn't, and to remember the difference. Right? Yeah.
To realize that they're okay even when things don't go well.
Right,
I think
right.
it's
I mean,
so
we're human. We're not supposed to
valuable.
be perfect. Yeah.
Um, so so we've been talking a lot on the connection side, the transmitting side. How do you help people who are struggling with the creative side? So it might be a comedian struggling with coming up with their thing, or an artist trying to get an inspiration, or a writer to get inspiration. So to
Yeah.
get that flowing.
Yeah. I think really the key to all of this is to know thyself, to get to know and love yourself, and to take care of yourself in a new way, and nurture yourself as a artist child. That's what Julia Cameron in her book The Artist Way says. And I would recommend anybody who has not worked their way through The Artist Way. It's designed to be a 12-week workbook. And it's available on Amazon. Get the book. It's got these exercises in it. But the most important thing about The Artist's Way is it makes you commit to writing just stream of conscious writing every day. Even if you don't want to be a writer, I think there's something about expressing and getting things on a paper. And, I call it vomiting on the page, because some of us aren't very good at journaling. I mean, you just let out whatever's going on. So you could talk about how you feel in the morning. You can talk about what you ate yesterday. You can just get something down. I usually recommend, checking in with your body, write about that. Check in about what bothered you yesterday and what went well. Check in about, uh, I don't know, things that inspire you. And that's where the book comes in too. It gives you exercises to really get in touch with maybe some things you forgot about who you are, and also to take yourself at least once a week to do something that you really love all by yourself, which is a huge challenge to a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. Well, this discovery of yourself as a creator is worth the time. So exercises in the book ask you questions like, what were you like as a 7 or 8 year old? What did you love to do? And that can be really interesting to go back to that little kid. What was that little kid involved in? And what was fun back then? Because that can open the door to a few things that might be fun now that you are not doing. You're not letting yourself do anymore. So it could be painting, it could be hiking in the woods, it could be, you know, drawing, it could be piano, it could be, you know, training your dog, it could be cooking, it could be all sorts of things. It could be, playing with fashion and makeup. You never know. It could be all sorts of different things. Um, so, getting in touch with that kid inside of you, also getting in touch with your senses and memories that are really like embedded in your DNA, so visual things, your favorite colors, your favorite places, your favorite time of year, your favorite weather, your favorite kind of tree, and just kind of going from there. From visual, you go to hearing, you go to how you, physical experiences, and getting yourself moving, walking. She recommends, even doing some of your creative work while you're washing dishes or weeding or mending clothes. It gives you a chance to just give your brain a little rest and to just go on a creative little, I wonder, journey about what's possible. So, those are a few suggestions from the artist's way, but how do you build tapping into that? Uh,
I
People
was going to
ask.
ask.
Yeah. So, one of the most valuable things, so Julie Cameron's book doesn't talk about tapping at all. And in fact, the way I got started with tapping with Julie Cameron's book, I tried to read the book by myself and all the exercises. I'm a very disciplined person, and I did the journaling. But when it came to the questions in the book, a lot of them kind of stirred up some traumatic, unpleasant memories. Not huge trauma, but things that you got hurt about creating in the past. It reminds you of things, people that shut you down. Like maybe your parents were not creative and they told you it was all silly. Well, that can be a voice you still hear in your head now. So, we use tapping when those things come up. When we're together in groups, we would talk about that. We would forgive our parents. And we would also tap around our resistance to doing things that would nurture that creative child, like taking ourselves on an artist date. And the artist date is a 1 hour a week, approximately, going to do something fun that you want to do. So, an example of an artist date, we just ask if you had 1 extra hour that suddenly became available and you could do anything you wanted, what would you do? So sometimes people just want to sit down and read a book. Sometimes they want to, redecorate their office, or they want to go to a museum, or maybe they want to make a new wreath for their door, whatever. All of those things would work. Maybe they want to try a new recipe. All of those things work. But then making the time to do it is often the stopper. So we would create tapping to help take that resistance down. So, maybe part of it, it's just like their identity really isn't connecting to being a creator yet. So you just say, even though I don't give myself permission to take time for creativity, I admit it and I accept myself anyway, even though it feels uncomfortable taking a whole hour to do something creative. I love and accept myself anyway, and I put it on my schedule for my highest good, even though I refuse to take time to do what Julia Cameron says would be good for my creative soul. I love and accept myself anyway. And I'm open to finding something I can put on my schedule and feel good about. Okay. So then you tap on all that resistance, all of the reasons that going to do something creative, to open up possibilities. This is about signaling to the universe that you are in forward motion and that you're ready to receive some ideas or some customers or some money. I mean, all of these things, we got to say to the universe, I'm in, I'm playing. What you got for me? And that's what this artist date and tapping away our resistance to receiving can do.
We have another comment, very nice
Mhm.
one.
Yeah.
Buddy says, "This is wonderful. So grateful to you both."
I know, buddy. I'm so glad you're here, buddy. Good
Yeah.
to have you with us. And I see my friend Sue's here too. She was just at the ASAP conference with me last week. So I'm glad she's listening in also.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that comment. I was just having a thought as I was listening to everything you were saying that for people who are feeling blocked in their creativity, let's say they're already pursuing it or trying to pursue it and they're feeling blocked, all the different examples you were describing from the book and what you were sharing seems to be about getting more and more in touch with your authentic self,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
right? Versus trying to think of something that would be quote good, right?
Right.
Which
I
to me would
mean,
end up blocking your creativity rather than facilitating it.
and I think the key to all of this is when you find what's really authentic and true, and like you ask your heart, is this true? And you get this excited, kind of bubbly feeling in your heart. I mean, this is when you're really turned on and you're connected. But that feeling that, yes, those kind of creative endeavors will be easy for you. Um, Now, I can't guarantee they're going to make money. Sometimes they're part of the path to the next thing that you get to that does make the money. But you're following some of the breadcrumbs. I would say they're leading you. That game we used to do when you're getting warmer, you're getting colder, you're getting warmer. You want to be in touch with what gets you warmer, what gets you closer to the truth of who you are. As I've gotten older now, I'm saying no to things because I don't know, they seem like, well, that's a little stretch. And I know what my heart loves and what I'm good at. And what my heart loves, even if I'm not quite good at it yet, I'll have the energy to go there. And this applies to, people that are dealing with health problems too. And they cross my path a lot as an EFT practitioner. I just talked to somebody this week who has had, this is somebody who's in the healthcare field, who is a medical person, who's had some terrible setbacks and who's now retired and trying to get going on some new things. But every time she kind of steps out of her comfort zone, she gets exhausted and then ends up kind of retreating back into her sad place. And, she's never read The Artist's Way. I was talking with her about, just starting a journaling process and also getting in touch with your body about what your body is telling you about what's safe now, what really feels like it has the energy behind it for you to do and try, and not to do too much, but to be open to some of these quieter processes that get started by reading The Artist's Way and doing those exercises. And she already knows how to tap, but that's the good thing. I think she can make some progress. And I would not be surprised if her body starts coming along for the ride, because I think there's some hesitancy somewhere in the body about this transition that she's going through from being an employed person to um, being free, actually. Yeah, and it wasn't about money for her, which was very interesting to me. It's more about identity and who she's going to give herself permission to be going forward, and to release the fear about the physical stuff. The physical stuff she's been through is very real. So I'm careful about that too. But I think as you calm down your stress, that a lot more things just open up, and your brain definitely works better. I think that's always true for me. Once I calm down, I have a better brain.
Well, yeah, it all seems like it's the road to being more fully, completely yourself.
Yes.
You know,
Hmm.
growing up, we as children, our whole way of being is around trying to be accommodate our parents, right?
Hmm.
I want my parents' love, so I'm going to try and be who they want me to be and not do things they don't want me to do. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of molding myself to fit them, basically.
Yeah.
Or I might rebel and try and be the opposite, which
Right.
is just as limiting. It's still not authentic. Either way, if I'm either trying to be what they want or be the opposite of what they want, neither of those are me.
Yeah, but that is part of our human nature to want to belong. We are social animals, and so we want
No,
to
I
belong.
agree. I think that's where we gotta start. I think that's part of the
Mhm.
human condition. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not taking fault with it. I'm saying that's a natural part of
yeah,
growing up as a young child is we
yeah,
do that. We all do that. Part of
yeah.
the human.
Hmm.
But to be creative is almost the exact opposite, right? It's like instead of worrying about being pleasing or accommodating or rebelling or anything, is to come back as fully and
Yeah,
completely to the purely exactly who we are.
right, right.
Actually reminds me one of the things that as you mentioned, you do relationships, I actually help people clear their blocks to finding their soulmate.
Hmm.
And one of the really common fallacies I run into with people is they'll be talking about, well, let's say it's a woman I'm talking to. She goes, well, I know that men like such and such. So I'm going to try and do that, more of that, right? And I'm saying it's understandable that you have this idea of, quote, men, but
Hmm.
is it really true that you want to change yourself to be more appealing to this amorphous group of imagined men, or do you want to be with your soulmate? And your soulmate is the person who uniquely finds, exactly who you are. Everything about you is you,
Yeah,
the most amazing person in the world. So if you want to be visible to your soulmate, you have to do the opposite of trying to be pleasing to men or pleasing to
yeah,
women. You want to be
yeah.
as fully yourself as you can be so that you're visible, so your soulmate goes, "Ah,
Right.
there you are. I see you."
And I mean, you're reminding me, these artist dates often, if you go someplace by yourself, following your heart where you want to go, you might just meet the right person while you're out there. In fact, one of my clients and trainees, I was just again on Facebook, saw this lovely picture of her with this good-looking man, and last I knew she was single and kind of not happy about it, but apparently she has dogs, and she met him on a trail with dogs, and he had dogs. So go figure. Doing what she loves, she met the right guy. And he likes the same stuff she does, right? So that's just precious when it happens.
But I think that's the theme of
Yeah.
all this stuff. Getting
Yeah.
into creative flow is doing what you love, getting in touch with yourself, shedding all these other concerns, like letting go of all that other stuff,
Mhm.
which sounds like that's where you use EFT a lot, is to help people shed
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. But I mean, you've got to really be in touch with what's uncomfortable, what's unpleasant. I mean, it does require going through the muck a little bit about what's back in my file cabinet that's keeping me stuck and not moving forward. And sometimes it's taking a couple files out at a time, maybe one at a time, and just chipping away at what's holding us in the current state that keeps us from taking a few chances. And playing. I think we can think of this creative activity and connecting as play. I mean, think about kids play. You know, you kick a ball and someone kicks it back to you, and there you go. Um, but we don't know if they're going to kick it back. But we have to be okay if they don't. If we feel like kicking, we should kick, right? Or whatever.
Well, like you say, play, exploring, experimenting, all sounds great. And it sounds like that's where you use EFT again
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
people feel more free to do all that.
Mm-hmm. So
So, what are some things that you would recommend to anyone with a creative dream that they hope to bring to reality?
okay. Well, I'm going to suggest another thing. I used this process when I started my business and I still use it. So, you know what it's called? And it's from the Artist Way. It's the God box. Okay. Anybody heard of the God box before? It's actually finding a container. So it can be a little basket. I think I started with a tin that had a little lid. It might have been a tea tin or something. And this is a process where you can write down things that you're worried about or you can't handle, and you put it on a piece of paper and you crumple it up and you put it in the God box and seal it, put the lid back on. And it's an action of asking God to handle it because you can't. Okay. So if you're having a fight with somebody, if somebody's offended you and you're wondering how to respond to them, and you're kind of stuck on that, um, it can be. I remember when I started my business, writing down, nobody will pay me for this. Put that in. I'm not good enough to do this. Put that in the box. You know, I might lose money. Put that in the box. You know, all the things that are bugging you. And I remember going into surgery a few years back. There might be complications. Put that in the box. What if they have trouble with the IV? Put it in the box. What if it's snowing the day I have to go for my surgery? Put that in the box. I mean, all the things, like, think about all those things you can't control, right? I mean, life seems so dangerous when you really think about it, but then you're like, I can't control that. I don't want to be in charge of the universe. I'm just going to give it to God. So you put it in the box. So here's what's interesting. You know, every now and then, especially if you're having a good day, go back to your box. Open up the box, see what's in there, and what you'll find is everything in the box got handled or doesn't matter anymore. Believe me. Oh my God. Is that true? I mean, when I went back to the box, and I forgot I put all this stuff in the box. No one will pay you for this. Well, they did. No one will come to your events. They did. Yeah, I'm not good enough. Well, I must be good enough because they came to my events and paid me. You know, so it was interesting to go back and see that. And you know, I've had touchy things in the past, maybe difficult clients that I wasn't sure how to deal with, and it's almost like surrendering. But it's a very safe way to surrender. Nobody but you and God knows what's in that box unless someone's snooping around your office. So I say do it. It's like a little ritual that is so clearing. And yes, tap too. But it's a
Yeah, I was
nice.
wondering how you tap with that. I'm guessing you don't just put things in the God box, but you
Yeah, you bet. Like just basically, even though I can't handle this, I don't know how to handle this, and I might never be able to handle this. I accept myself and I'm giving it to God right now. Thank you so much. Even though I can't handle this and I'm worried about it and I'm wasting my energy on it, I accept myself anyway and I'm giving it to God because God can handle it better than me. And even though I'm not sure if God's really out there, I can't handle this. I'm spending too much of my precious energy on it and I release it. I give up. I surrender. God, take this and do what's best. Thank you. Amen. Okay. And it's like a prayer that you tap to. And if you want to swear at God in your prayers, people think, oh, she must be awful. She's going to hell. Some of my best tapping has involved swearing at God, yelling at God. Like if something really bad happens and you're just overwhelmed, go ahead and do it and just keep tapping and swearing. and then eventually something happens. You just shift and you're like, okay, I'm fine with this now. I've had my rant. I used to do it every day early in the morning before I went to the ICU for the doctor rounds when my husband was really bad and things were really not not certain at all. Well, there were a lot of weeks that they were uncertain, but the very worst about whether he was even living. And I would do that and I would be so mad at God and crying and then I would just relax. And then I would really get myself centered and say, "Okay, God, help me be the very best wife of a patient I can be today. Help me listen. Help me communicate with the doctors and make the very best decisions when I'm asked to make a decision. Thank you. I'm off." And I would go to the hospital and be pretty balanced all day long after doing that. It even surprised me. Like I've been tapping for a long time when that happened. Um, and so I encourage everybody to, do your private work, be vulnerable. And that's a good way to let the venom out, so to speak. We get filled with these scary thoughts and feelings, and the best thing to do is to admit them and accept yourself with them, and then ask, connect up, and ask for a little help.
We have another comment.
Hmm.
Chris wrote, "It's a way to make peace with your problems so you can stop obsessing about it."
Yeah, yeah. And actually, as you tap, I think the other thing, and Stefan knows this, and anybody who taps a bit, as you explore these feelings, just get them out, new aspects do emerge. Sometimes you suddenly have awareness of a memory connected to the way you're feeling, and you can work on other little bits that are part of the feeling. That's really important detective work for all of us to do as we explore these feelings we have, because they might have some history in the past.
It's all about peeling away these layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in hearing some case studies, like examples of working with a client who was trying to be creative in this way, and some of the things that interfered, and the tapping you did, and then the final outcome.
Okay. Well, I've worked with a lot of people who wanted to write, I would say, over the years. And those people are writing. I think of one woman who has written a couple books now, and she wrote a memoir very recently after, working with me and a group. And it took her a while. I think she had a lot of voices in her head about it wasn't safe to really share her story. And it was my pleasure then when the book came out to really make sure other people knew about her book, to have her bring books to an event so people could buy books from her. And she's still writing. She's written short stories. She's in a writers group now. And she has community with other people who write, which I think is a beautiful thing. She was very, very diligent in writing her morning pages every day and always did it religiously. And was a good model for other people in the group, because a lot of people have trouble with the morning pages piece of writing every day.
What are morning pages?
And morning pages are part of Julie Cameron's Artist Way, where you write 3 pages of freehand first thing in the morning every day.
Oh,
And so
it's
you
like a flow of consciousness, kind of.
yeah, stream of consciousness. It can, if you don't want to write a whole lot, you get one of these books that's about that big, and you use big capital letters. But, a lot of people, write freehand. So it's not on the computer. It's actually freehand writing. And there is something to be said about, the hand and the brain working together with a pen. I always get a fancy pen and a really nice journal. So it makes it feel special. I love rollerballs, really good rollerball pens. So if I'm going to journal, it's going to be free flowing with my rollerball. Um, and nobody's supposed to read this journal. It's very private. So she did a lot of the journaling, but she still, I think what got her stuck was the artist date, which is another part of the commitment of the artist way, is you do this date once a week. Um, it was hard for her to feel deserving and to just take herself away to do that piece of the work. And that's really,
Away from like her commitments in life or something.
yeah, I mean, it's taking yourself away from the mundane cleaning, cooking, working, responsible for other people's life, and to tell other people I'm going to be unavailable for the next hour. I'm going to a museum, or I'm going to an art show or a fair or something. I mean, it really is indulging this creative child inside of you, saying we're going to go ride a merry-go-round, and we'll drive an hour to find one. It's crazy, but that is such fuel for the whole overall creative process. So, my groups over the years, what's wonderful is when we get back together each week as a group, we share what we did for artist dates, because oftentimes people don't quite, their definition of what an artist date is very limited. And so once they hear what other people do to kind of open up their creativity, then they get inspired, like, really? So I could go to Lake Erie and pick up beach glass and go barefoot in the water, and that's an artist date? Absolutely. Oh, I could go to a farmer's market and pick up all the ingredients and make a special meal just for me from or have a dinner party. I mean, whatever you're interested in trying to do that's kind of a stretch that seems exciting, you could do that. Taking a cooking class all by yourself, you could do that. Um, you know, there's so many ways that you can be creative that actually, if you're trying to write a book, doing something else that's really creative, like cooking, still supports that creative flow that you're working on. Okay. So it doesn't even have to be categorically the same. So you take you just get out of your rut. You get to new places. Your brain starts working differently. You're in new environments. You might meet new people. Think about it. It could really get you rolling in a creative direction that you hadn't considered before. So it's good for you. It helps your brain. I think it really helps your brain just like click into some different frequencies in terms of where your next step could be.
Sounds great.
So I don't know other stories. I'd have to think about. Oh, I mean, there's stories about how people got their mysterious perfect pet. One of my Artist Way people I can just share too. She has a podcast. She has an EFT podcast, so I might as well. She was in my Artist Way group a couple summers ago, and she had the nerve to express that she wanted to do a podcast, but she was afraid because she had two kids at home and her husband, and she was already overworked and overbooked. But yet there was this urge inside of her, and the whole group supported her. So said, "Well, why don't you just get some information about it? You don't have to do it. Your artist date can be just exploring it and researching it and talking to people that already have podcasts." And like within a couple of weeks, she'd connected with a producer. She got a studio. She had lined up a few guests. I think I was one of her first guests. So her podcast is called Tap Into Health. Her name is Liz Fisher. She's here in the Cleveland area, and she's very focused. Her work is focused on trichotillomania, which is hair pulling, repetitive disorder, and some anxiety stuff too. So she launched it. She didn't just launch it; she fueled it up. She's made a lot of connections through social media with some related fields, not just EFT. And she's out there helping. And yeah, she's still a mom with two kids at home. She made it work. And I'm so proud of her. That's an example. I think it's fueling her life, her practice, and she's happy. She actually found a way to do it easily and found community through other young moms that have podcasts, believe it or not. So, yay, Liz.
Yeah, that's it. That's such a inspirational story or stories that you share.
Mhm. Yeah.
could be possible. Is there before we start transitioning into the live Q&A part, is there anything particularly you wanted to convey or share how people can learn more about you and things like that?
Okay. Well, my website's right here on the screen, betsymuller.com. I invite everybody. I do a free tapping group on Mondays at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's 30 minutes. I think I've done over 300 episodes now, believe it or not. I can't believe I've done so many with this group. And you have to register. So there's information on betsymuller.com/events where you can learn about that and register and join us. And I'm always interested in taking, ideas for those broadcasts. If there's something you'd like us to work on, also prayer requests. I almost every week we have somebody who needs some surrogate tapping support. So if you know of somebody who's facing a surgery or has a difficult diagnosis or is just down or has had a loss of some sort, we're happy to help them. And that's really good for the group. It's good when you tap for other people. Unselfishly, you just tap on yourself. So happy to do that to involve you. Oh, I see Donna's here. Donna's been in my group for many weeks. Thank you, Donna,
Let's
for
show her comment, actually.
yeah, yeah.
She wrote,
Oh, she is.
EFT literally tapping the acupressure meridian points on the upper body sounded like hocus pocus at first. It worked immediately, and Betsy is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure working with Donna. And she has little dogs. So if you come on, if you come on our call, you'll see Donna and she has these little dogs on the couch behind her. They're just precious. And I know Stephen, I know your cat's back there.
Yes.
I I had to put my one dog Peroni in his happy house today while I'm on the call. And I think Serena's somewhere around here. My cat's in the sunroom. So I'm definitely an animal person. I love all creatures, all kind except spiders. Not
Now you
them.
have another free gift that you wanted to
Yeah,
share. It's called
yeah,
Tapping with the Energetic Handshake for Connection,
yes.
Attraction, and Collective Healing.
So everybody who's done training with me, and actually a lot of my clients are familiar with the tapping with the energetic handshake. These are words that were first um, inspired by a friend of mine, Geshita Kiowak, who is a Seneca elder. She's up in Ontario, and she's a colleague I met at ASAP conference, but we've collaborated on some retreats and events over the years. I went up to Ontario, and what I noticed is every time she'd gather groups in a circle, she would do a ceremony to connect us. And she would use these words of the energetic connection, and it occurred to me they lined up perfectly with the tapping points. So I just started tapping with them and using it as openings for trainings and group gatherings. So those words are there. I have since added two more verses to the rounds of tapping for connection. The second verse has to do with manifesting and attracting what you need. And the third verse has to do with collective healing or distance healing, group healing, because there's something about tapping with a group that is very powerful. We have the term we use in training about it, borrowing benefits. When two or more tap together, there's this amplification of healing potential. And it, even if you're tapping on behalf of somebody else, there's something that comes back to you that you benefit without even thinking about your problem. And so I encourage you to look at all three verses of the energetic handshake that you can get access to from here and
Yeah,
use
so
it.
in the description of this video, uh, there's a
There's
link
a link.
for you to get this
Okay. Yeah.
thing that Betsy was talking about,
Yeah.
tapping with the energetic handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the description of the video, there's a sign up link. It's at the very, very bottom where you can sign up just to get notified of these interviews. Like I said, it'd be twice a month for the next couple of years. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't want it to be just chance seeing it on YouTube. You can sign up and just get notifications. Just send it out when the next interview comes. I go, hey,
Yeah.
here's the next interview.
Yeah.
Um, And I also have a couple of my own free gifts. I'm not going to get into it, but they're in my areas in the description of the video as well. I'd like to transition into the live Q&A, and we have our
Good.
first question. Here we go. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Conchetta?
Conchetta. I know Conchetta. I just
Ah,
talked to her this week. I'm glad she's here. So she says, is the artist date for the whole day or can it be part of a day? It's definitely part of the day. So don't don't think you have to do the whole day. God bless you if you do a whole day. I would love if you could, but it's really supposed to be an hour. And maybe it ends up being more than an hour, but that's a good place to start. So I'm thinking even today, one of the things I might do today for my artist date, I saw something on Facebook about painting rocks to look like colorful tropical fish. And I have paints. I have a whole bunch. I have every color out there. I have brushes, and I'm going to do a little gardening after this, and then I'm going to sit down at my outdoor table and I'm going to paint a rock. That's an artist day. So doesn't have to take a lot of time or a lot of energy. And actually, if you mess it up, I can paint over my rock. If I don't like it, I'll paint it again. Right? So no harm done. I dedicate that hour. So another thing, if you're doing something like painting, put some music on too. Put your favorite music on. So we want to load up our senses with all sorts of good stuff. So maybe you want a tasty snack while you're doing that, and a lovely beverage of some sort, non-alcohol preferred. Okay. Um, and, make yourself as comfortable, as happy as possible because you are taking precious care of a wonderful little artist that wants to do something fun.
so Conchetta said,
Mhm.
great, thank you. Let's see, we have another
Mm,
comment.
yeah.
My artist date is doing dancing tonight. Music
Yes,
definitely
oh,
helps.
yes, very good. Have fun and request the music you like when you're out dancing. If there's a DJ, have a song that you absolutely love. Maybe you have a choreographed dance too. Then you're ready to go. And if you don't, that could be an artist date. You put your favorite song on, you choreograph a dance to it all by yourself. Nobody sees it. And then someday you go out and perform it on the dance floor in the midst of other people. It really isn't like you're on stage or anything. Have a blast. That's something you could do before a wedding, right? You could be set. Jimmy Buffett. Oh boy, that sounds fun. Yeah.
So she wrote, yeah, she had a little add-on.
Yeah.
Buffett band will do.
Good.
I've actually been dancing for 40 years, so this was I particularly relate to this one.
Yeah.
Dancing is one of my inspirational flows. I actually met my wife.
Yeah. I dance every day. I go to jazzercise, and that, as long as I can still do it, because it just makes me happy. And I love the music and I love learning new music all the time, and they keep up with the hits. So I don't get old and stuck in music. I like all kinds of music thanks to my dance routines. It's kind of fun. And I should also say physical movement. So, with respect to creativity, moving your body gets right and left of your body and your energy system working together. So, walking, really exaggerating your arm movements so you get the left right patterning. When we tap, we're activating left and right brain. But when you are doing creative stuff, you are activating right brain. And some of the most recent research that was mentioned in Beyond Anxiety by Martha Beck, a book that I love and recommend, she talks about how creativity, actually, you can't be anxious while you're in full creative mode. So that's another reason to maybe take on some doodling, some creative writing, some painting, something new and kind of fun to occupy your brain in a different way instead of being anxious. Okay. Humming. That's another thing. Stefan, make sure everybody knows this. Humming activates right brain. And so if you hear music and you don't know the words, you go for it. Just hum. Doesn't that
Also,
sound good?
writing with your left hand activates right brain.
Yes, it does. Brushing your teeth with your left hand, doing all sorts of things, combing your hair with your left hand. I don't know. But you don't automatically go to that, but you could try.
We have another one from Chris.
Mhm.
It says, happy is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know what? When you're stuck in sad, it can be hard getting the happy motor going. And that's a reason to have the capacity to be connected with somebody else and also to have a tapping habit. Um,
Well, I would also imagine that, creativity doesn't have to flow from happiness. It could flow from great sadness.
Free. One of my practitioners, I should mention, she was going through EFT certification and a divorce at the same time. And somewhere along the line, she got some watercolors out and started doing some watercolor doodling and did some amazing things. These faces with tears running down the face. Fast forward 3 years later, she is an EFT. She's a certified EFT practitioner, but she got invited to do all the illustrations for a new card deck, a commercial card deck with a practitioner, and she just released it a few weeks ago. I think that is an incredible thing. I mean, she didn't even define herself as an artist. She was just taking care of her grief and her transition into this new identity of a single person. Um, and that's what came out of it. A lot of healing.
Yeah. So it seems like, again, it's just like what gets you most fully into yourself.
Hmm.
So I mean, happy is great, but it's allowing yourself to feel everything you're feeling,
Yeah.
right? Rather than trying to like, I know, no, I don't want to feel that,
Hmm.
or just
Yeah.
blocking out or numbing or whatever. It's like
Right.
it's like
Right.
releasing everything that's in the way of being as completely you as possible.
So some people might ask, can you do an artist date with other people? Yes, but I want to encourage you all to do it by yourself too. So maybe you do two artist dates. You do a group date and a single date. Okay. I think sometimes you get pulled in other people's direction if you do a group date and it's not true to what your little artist really wants to do. So that's my caution to you all. But group artist dates are wonderful. And if you get into a community of fellow creative people, you guys can have really lots of fun. I love leading those kind of groups because sometimes people need an invitation to go do some fun, creative things. But I still think that those single, take yourself on a date all by yourself is a very, very worthy endeavor.
Sounds good. So any other questions about EFT for boosting creativity and connection, or probably anything else? I'm not seeing any new questions come up. If you're trying to, let me just say one thing. If you're trying to type a long question, it might take you a while to type it. Just start with the very beginning of it. Just say question, hit the send. So I know that you're in the process of typing a long question. I'll know to wait for it. Because otherwise, if there's nothing for a while, I'll just think that everybody's done with their questions, and then we'll kind of close. Of course, I've been talking long enough now. It's been no new questions, so it looks like we may be at the end.
That's perfectly okay. It's a nice day. Maybe
Yes.
they want to go outside and play or do something
Maybe you've
creative.
inspired everybody. Okay, I have enough online time. Let me go outside. Yes,
I
exactly.
know. Yeah, there's always plenty to do on a Saturday. I get it.
Well, it's been absolutely wonderful having you as my first speaker and on such a great opening topic. So thank you so much for being, being
Well, thank you, Stefan. And I wish you success with all the future interviews, and I'll be out watching and helping you promote that too. Because this is kind of scary, right? This is new for you. This is a creative endeavor.
You're absolutely right, because I have been interviewed many times, but this is a new
Hmm.
thing for me to be doing the interviewing.
Yeah.
So I just want to let everybody know the next upcoming interview is with Craig Weiner, and he's going to be talking about an advanced version of EFT called matrix re-imprinting, which is not just about releasing the pain of the past, but it's actually about rewriting what
Mhm.
happened in the past so we can have a better future.
Yeah,
And matrix re-imprinting, I love it.
trained with Craig in matrix re-imprinting. It's an amazing process. So I hope everybody on here will be back for that because it's really fascinating. You have to be a level 2 student to be able to take the uh, the matrix
Finish level.
re-imprinting. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah, I
definitely
use it with all my clients. I love matrix re-imprinting, so
yeah.
I'm really excited to have
Hmm.
Craig on next to share with everybody. So those of you who haven't heard of it, don't know about it, I would encourage you to come because it's awesome. It's an awesome variation of EFT. And we got a bunch of thank yous coming in. So I'm just going to display them quickly. Here's a thank you. Here's another thank you.
And thank you all for giving up your sunny Saturday to be with us. And promise me, everybody out there, go do something for your artist child today or tomorrow. You got a
Check out
weekend.
all the goodies in the description of this video.
Yeah.
And yes, oh, another thank you. There we go. Sorry, I think I cut you off at the end there. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Again. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming, and see you on the next interview.
Okay. Thanks, Stefan.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye bye.